than the novice levels when you move up the novice. And it's interesting to see who'll cope with the pressure.
Everybody seems pretty chirpy in their warm-up.
Yeah, I think it's the theme this year has really helped. It's very fun. A lot of the kids are enjoying it. The rhythm dance can be quite tricky. It's 2 minutes 50 seconds plus or minus 10, and to fit in to fit in the amount of elements that they've got to fit in that time, it can feel like you're just running from one element to another element. But with the theme, it's been quite fun. We've seen a lot of very interesting choreography and different takes on different musicals. There's some people who've both chosen the same musical, but it's been a completely different interpretation.
Yeah. That is really nice when you see, a different person's interpretation of a theme.
Definitely.
Even if they've chosen the same thing.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
So our skaters now leaving the ice after their warm-up, and we've got Vasilia Aramenka and Alessio Serenkov-Gulchev are our first pair.
This is their first year in juniors. They made the move up from advanced novice. It's interesting to see how they do. They've been together a while, and it does help when you've been together for a couple of years. You kind of have a bit of an advantage over a newer team.
And coming out first is always difficult, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So they've gone straight into the tea time foxtrot. A little bit quick there on the timing. They've got nice ice coverage. So they're now starting their twizzle sequence. As Alyssa was having a little bit of a problem with her pattern on that. It's a really interesting position on the lift. It's really original. We haven't seen anyone do that before. I think that was a good start for them. It was quite strong. They had a slight bobble towards the end in the step sequence, but overall I think they should be quite happy with that. That's the cleanest I've seen them do that program all season.
It's a very fun program.
It is fun, yeah, definitely. They looked like they were enjoying it.
I really enjoyed their lift. I suppose Alice says she's quite small, so they can do a lift like that.
Yeah, it does make a difference when the girls are small, but the position is very interesting. It's very original. You do find that you know a couple will come up with a lift that gets the level that they need to get the good points, and then you'll find 10 other teams that do it. So it's very nice to see them coming up with an original position that hasn't been used before. You know, using their own imagination.
It was nice and characterful. I think they really put across the sort of stage show, Chicago, Broadway,
Yes.
that I think they were trying to do.
Yeah, definitely. I think for them, with it being their first year, it's about them gaining experience and learning from the whole process. They seem quite happy.
They should be. It's difficult to open. And,
it is. I've skated first a lot.
Is that just you being unlucky?
13 times in a row.
Oh, wow. Surely that can't just be luck.
I don't know.
Because it's a draw, isn't it?
It is.
So
it's a random draw. Yeah. It really is just luck of the draw. It really is, and I was just unlucky. But it's sometimes people love skating first, and sometimes people absolutely hate it.
Because now they are done, aren't they? They can, for today, they're done.
They're done for today. They can relax. They can watch the other competitors, because sometimes a lot of the competitors, they don't want to watch who they're up against. So, some people love to watch who they're up against, and some people are like, get away from me. I don't want to see anything. So it's when you skate first, you don't have to worry about any of that.
No, because you can either go or you can stay.
Yeah, definitely. Seems like the technical panel is discussing a few things.
So they'll be watching the things they're not sure about on the slow motion.
Yeah, so anything that they're not quite sure of, you can call a review. So say on the Twizzles, they will call a review just to see what each of them were doing, and if there's anywhere where they will lose points or lose a level or anything like that. They have features in each of the elements, and you need 4 features to get a level 4. Level 4 is the highest you can get. Okay. A base level is the lowest. So base is the minimum requirement. And it's all set out. There's so many rules in the dance. There's so many rules. The rule book is 3 times the size of the figure skating manual.
Oh, wow. So a score for 29.98. So representing Guildford, we've got Brienne Reher and Christopher Bland.
This is only their second season as a couple, and Chris used to be a men's single skater, and he decided to switch to dance. So straight in with the Twizzles. Bit out of sync there. A bit slow on the timing there in the tea time foxtrot. Good interpretation of the music. They look like they're having fun. So this is their midline step. Really nice choreography throughout that. It's really showing off the character of the music. That was nice. A definite improvement from those two. It's nice to see them looking happy at the end. There are a few issues with the timing on the tea time foxtrot. It can be quite tricky, the timing on this dance. It's tripped up quite a number of couples this season, both like nationally and internationally. But overall, I think that was quite a nice performance from them.
It's always nice to see them finish smiling.
Yeah, definitely. It's you know that they've enjoyed it. Then I always feel a little bit heartbroken when I see how sad people are at the end if it's gone wrong.
Yeah, it must be so hard knowing you haven't done the performance you necessarily wanted to.
Yeah, it can be, because you put so many hours in working on it, and you know, a lot of these kids, they don't get to spend time with their friends because they're training. They give up going to parties and things like that, and then when something goes wrong, it can be, you know, a bit heartbreaking.
Is there a maximum age that you can't be above this age in junior dance?
So for junior, it's 21 for boys,
okay,
and 19 for the girl. It's a little bit older for the boys because their physical strength takes a little bit longer to mature than what girls do. And then once they reach that age, they have to move up to senior.
So we'll probably see these guys in senior next year, hopefully?
Yeah, should be.
Because I think they're two of the older competitors in this category, aren't they?
Yeah.
So Christopher's made the move from single free skating to ice dance. Do you get many people that compete in both?
You can do, yeah. The lower sort of levels you can do, and even at the junior level, you get people that will compete in both, just because they enjoy it, you know. But then once you start to get into a higher level, you have to pick. You do have to pick. It is quite rare to have people competing in both nowadays. The little kids do, because there's not so much pressure on the elements and the technical aspect of it. But it is quite hard to jump between the disciplines. Each discipline is difficult with its own right, and it's not always the same for each discipline. So it can be very different.
I suppose if you enjoy, I would have thought that skating, sort of figure skating, I would be like, yeah, I know what figure skating is. I don't know what figure skating is, because there's so many different elements to figure skating that I had no idea that the sport was so complex and had so many different things you could do, which is really, really, it's really interesting, and I think makes it a lot more open for people to start skating and
definitely
and have all the different bits you can do, because you've got synchronized skating, which obviously is in a team, and then you've got ice dance, and then you've got free skating, and if you don't like one particular aspect, you could move into another.
Yeah, definitely. I think people kind of get a big misconception from the sequins and the makeup and all of that. You know, they don't actually realise that this is actually a very difficult sport. It's very technical and very physical.
So a tea time foxtrot score of 33.30 for Brienne and Chris. So from Alexandra Palace, we've got Sasha Fear and George Waddell.
They're the current British Junior champions, and they competed at Junior Worlds last year. They did very well. They qualified through all the rounds. I think they got some personal bests as well. I can't remember, but they're progressing really nicely. Very nice twizzle sequence there. Very strong, precise and synchronized.
sun's in my heart, and I'm ready for love. Let the stormy clouds chase everyone from the blaze. Come on with the rain, I've a smile.
They're showing really nice control and movement throughout this tea time foxtrot.
Down the lane with a happy refrain, just singing, singing in the rain.
Really good use of music. The steps are fitting really nicely with all the different nuances of the music. The lift has gone wrong. There was supposed to be a change of position in there, but it looked like the hold was wrong, so they couldn't quite get the change. That will affect their level on that lift. It'll be interesting to see what the technical panel does with that.
Thank you, Sasha.
It's a shame. It was a really strong performance from them. They've improved a lot.
They've had a fantastic year, haven't they? They've represented the GB in 2 Junior Grand Prix events.
Yes, they did.
Finishing top 10 in both events, and won 2 gold medals representing GB in Mezzaluna in Italy and Pavel Remain Memorial Cup in the Czech Republic.
Yeah, they've had a really strong season. They're just showing improvement every competition they come out at. The first Junior Grand Prix that they competed at, they had a slight accident and Sasha's blade ended up slicing George's hand.
Ooh.
He ended up having to have a lot of stitches.
Oh, goodness.
And when they came out for the rhythm dance, they thought that the stitches would hold, but they actually split, and she ended up with a lot of red handprints from the blood all over her body.
Oh, goodness.
Thankfully, none of them went on the dress, because that is a stunning dress.
The costumes are absolutely incredible in figure skating across the board.
Yeah.
They never fail to amaze me. They're always so characterful, and they must put so much time and thought into their costumes.
Yeah, it is. There's a lot of searching, going through movies, and a lot of the times the kids look at the dresses from the Oscars and see something that they like there. I like that top with that skirt or that colour.
Wow.
There is a lot of thought put into all the costumes. It's not just, I picked that because it's a pretty colour, or I like that design. It's always designed to fit the music.
Yeah, and you can often tell what their theme is before the music even starts by what they're wearing.
Yes, there are some programs, as soon as you see them out on the ice, you automatically know what they're skating to. But that's good. It shows that they're really getting into the character of the theme, and they want to interpret what they're doing.
It really shows the strength that Sasha and George have got as a couple dancing together, especially if George is literally bleeding everywhere and they still manage to perform.
Yes,
That's
and
incredible.
they perform really well. It's quite funny when they went out for the free dance. He had this black glove on, so that if it did start bleeding again, it was all soaked into the glove. But it didn't quite go with the costume. It was very obvious. It kind of stuck out like a sore thumb, but it did the trick, and they skated really well. Yeah, considering, because when you're in a dance team or even a pair team, you have to rely on your grip so much. So the second that you have a hand injury, it really does affect what you're doing, because you can't grip as well. And certain moves that you would do that would rely on you having that hold, and you wouldn't necessarily be able to do it.
Sasha and George, total segment score 57.29. They're currently in first place.
So Sasha and George have a score of 57.29.
Next to skate, Emily Rose Brown and James Hernandez representing Guildford.
So now we've got Emily Rose Brown and James Hernandez, who skates at Guildford.
They've been together for a few seasons now, and they have been progressing very nicely as well. They've been a lot closer to Sasha and George this last couple of seasons. I think a lot closer than Sasha and George would like. Good use of the music with the Twizzles there, really interprets it well.
There may be trouble ahead, but while there's moonlight and music and love and romance, let's face the music.
They seem a little bit ahead of the music with this timing on this Tea Time Foxtrot. Very nice twizzle there from James.
Let's face the music and dance, dance. Let's face the music and dance. Have you seen the well-to-do up and down Park Avenue on that famous thoroughfare with their noses in the air, high hats and arrow collars, white spats and lots of dollars, spending every dime for a wonderful time? If you're blue and you don't know where to go to, why don't you go where fashion sits? Put it on the Ritz, dressed up like $1 million trooper, trying hard to look like Gary Cooper. Come, let's mix where Rockefellers walk with sticks or umbrellas in their midst. Put it on the Ritz.
Losing a bit of speed towards the end of that rotational lift there. That will affect their grade of execution from the judges. That was nice. I think they'll be pleased with that. The lift did slow down quite a lot at the end.
Emily and James.
I don't think it will affect their level, but the grade of execution from the judges, it should be slightly lower.
Lots of nice little personal flourishes again.
Yes, it's nice to see the couples using the music. There's nothing worse when you're watching skaters in all the disciplines and they're just skating straight through the music. They're not interpreting any of it. But this musicals season, everybody has just grasped it and embraced it. You know, they're really using it and having fun with the music as well and putting in some really original choreography. It's been quite refreshing this season to see it.
They set themselves a pretty high bar with the interpretation of trying to interpret Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
the masters.
The bar is set very high, and obviously Ginger Rogers always famously said, I did everything he did but backwards and in heels, but I'm not sure she ever did it in skates.
Do you know what? The majority of the time in a lot of the moves, the ladies are backwards as well.
Yeah.
And when the men have to do something backwards, they hate it because they're not used to it. So it's I agree with Ginger there, definitely.
So Emily Rogers can always say, well, I did it backwards and in skates.
Yes. Definitely. It is quite funny, the boys, when you say, oh, now do that backwards. The looks on their faces, it's just incredulous, you know.
It must be very difficult to change, though, when you learn doing something, because I was talking to Matt yesterday about, I mean, the same with these guys, with the Twizzles, like, as a non-skater, not like thinking about not being dizzy having done what they've just done is completely alien to me.
It takes a lot of practice.
Yeah.
It does. I remember when I first started skating, how dizzy I used to get, and then you just build up sort of a resistance to it. And I mean, I don't do as much skating now when I'm coaching, but I'm starting to get more dizzy than I used to because I'm out of practice. But it's surprising how, you know, your body and your brain adjust to it once you've really practiced it.
But if you go the other way, you'd get dizzy again.
Yeah, you can do. With the twizzle sequences, though, you have to rotate in both directions.
Oh, right.
You have to have a clockwise and an anti-clockwise. So you have to get used to rotating in both directions.
So ice dancers are probably better at rotating both directions than
It
free
is
skaters.
it is a requirement in the twizzles and in the spins that we'll see in the free dance tomorrow. Not everybody does it, but some of the couples do choose to rotate in both directions.
Oh, right.
And it can be very, very tricky.
Yeah, I can
Definitely.
imagine. That's
Yeah.
a whole other element.
And
like,
if you've got one partner that's better at it than the other,
The
it's
scores
all kinds of
for
issues.
Emily and James, total segment score 60.78. Emily and James are currently in first place.
So for Emily and James, a score of 60.78, so they should be very
Could the
pleased with that.
following skaters
They'll be very happy.
please take to the ice for their 5-minute warm-up. Natalie Nicole and Peter Nicol.
I think where the
Lucy
lift went
Hancock
wrong
and
for
Billy
Sasha and
Wilson
George, that's
French,
really affected the score they would have
Erin
got.
Gillies
They
and
definitely lost a
Joshua
few points
Terry,
there.
Phoebe Becker
So between
and
first and
Theodore
second, between
Alexander.
Emily, James, Sasha and George, it's pretty close though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's less than 3 points, so it's not enough of a margin for it to be cut and dry just yet.
Yeah. So neither pair can get comfortable.
No, definitely not. And I think unless you've got, say, like a 10-15 point difference, nobody can get comfortable. It's very, very easy to lose a lead over something. Usually when the referee calls somebody over, it's just to discuss, looking out for each other on the warm-up, because there has been some very nasty collisions in the past, and it's the referee's duty of care to make sure that the couples are being conscious of one another and not just kind of barging into each other.
Because I suppose when you are very focused in that warm-up, which you must be, it must be
very
quite
easy.
difficult to be aware of other people on the ice.
Yeah, and there have been some very, very nasty collisions at some of the international events over the last couple of seasons, and it's really affected the outcome of how some of the skaters have performed.
right.
And there has been some skaters who've had to withdraw from events as a result of a collision on a warm-up.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah, so it's the referees have to be very strict over it.
So of these next 4 skaters, what can we expect to see from these 4?
So we've got 2 brand new couples this year, Natalie and Peter, and Phoebe and Theodore. It's their first year in junior, so they will be looking to gain as much experience from this as possible. Joshua and Erin are also a new couple, but they progressed very, very quickly. They also competed on the Junior Grand Prix series this year. And they did really well. It was nice to see. And then Lucy and Billy competed last year. They were last year's silver medalists because Emily and James, who we just saw, they were out due to injury last year. So it'd be interesting to see how Lucy and Billy do. They've progressed a lot this season. Definitely, there's been a real big improvement from them.
So as we watch them doing their warm-up, we're trying to work out what their theme is going to be. So there's at least one 20s theme I can see.
Yeah, there's a 20s theme. There is a chorus line.
Okay.
And there is a We Will Rock You as well.
Ooh, sounds exciting.
Yeah, so it has been really, really interesting to see all the different musicals and everything and the themes. It's been so much fun. It's been really interesting to see.
And it gives you an awful lot of scope, doesn't it, for the very different interpretations we've seen so far.
Yes, definitely. It's everyone interprets things differently, and there's been some really interesting costumes, really like costume choices, and it's much more fun for the skaters. Not everyone wants to do a serious program or a contemporary program, and dance is so many different genres, And the last couple of seasons, a lot of the skaters have kind of been getting stuck in a rut, and everyone has been interpreting the same sort of style. So this is forcing people to go out of that comfort zone and having to do something different.
Yeah.
It's really good to see the couples that have coped with it and the other ones who've struggled.
So it's pushing them creatively as well as technically.
Definitely. Yeah, there are some teams that they will always do contemporary because that's where they're the best. But I mean, when I was growing up, the skaters that I was watching, they always had a different theme. Every year there was one team, they had, Romeo and Juliet, then they did Riverdance, and they did I Will Survive, so every year it was a completely different theme. And I think the powers that be are trying to push for skaters to do that a lot more than just stick in their comfort zone.
Because it helps skating progress, doesn't it?
Definitely. When the crowd is watching, they don't want to see, 20 programs of balletic classical music. They want to see a big change. I mean, for me, when I've been on a technical panel at competitions, obviously my job is to watch what they're doing, but it is very difficult when we have 10 programs in a row where it's all really slow music. It's nice to have a lot of variety.
Because some skaters will really want to perform something a little bit slower and a little bit more classical, won't they? And some skaters, this has just allowed them to just be themselves.
Yes, yeah. Every skater will have their niche with what they prefer to do, but the best of the best push themselves to be different, and that's what really sets you apart from everybody else.
Complete. Please clear the ice.
So our first skaters of the second group in our junior rhythm dance, which is the Tea Time Foxtrot, are Natalie Nicol and Peter Nicol. And this is their first season?
It's their first season.
Skating together?
They started out the season as advanced novice. They did a few competitions, but then they decided they wanted to move up. They said they didn't have anything to lose. Their coaches spoke with them and said that they probably wouldn't do very well because it is such a big jump, and we'll just give it a go.
Wow, that's very impressive.
They love to compete. They love it, these two, and it's quite fun watching them because they do really enjoy it. It's fun. Good start from them, really using the music to fit their steps too. A little bit slow on the timing there. Very close together on their twizzles, that's good to see. It's harder to rotate when you're as close as that. Natalie had to step off of that last twizzle. That will affect the level that she gets. Nice use of the music there to fit the footwork. think they'll be happy with that. That was solid. For a few shaky moments, but overall for their first juniors, it's
Thank you,
not bad at all.
Natalie and Peter.
So this is their first junior competition.
It's their first junior nationals. They've done 2 junior events so far, so they haven't had a lot of experience yet. And Pete has to work a little bit harder than all the rest. He suffers from dyspraxia, so it just means he doesn't have as much control over his muscles as what the average person does. But he works really hard at it, and since he started skating, it's actually helped improve the control he has over his muscles and everything. He's a real nice kid, very easygoing, and doesn't feel sorry for himself. Just gets on with it. It's nice.
Their lift was excellent. I really enjoyed their lift.
Yeah, it was nice and fast, good rotations. They finished a little bit behind the music, but overall I think they'll be very happy with that.
Do you get penalised for finishing slightly late?
It depends on how late you finish. Okay. Yeah, there is kind of late start deductions and things like that as well. So there's so many deductions. Sometimes there's some that you never even think of, and you get them.
Something like if something drops off a costume, you get deducted for that, don't you?
Costume failure.
Costume
deduction.
failure.
Yes, costume failure. You lose. I think it's 2 points. 1
That's
point.
quite a lot.
It is quite a lot.
I suppose it's a hazard, I guess, on the ice.
Yeah, it has happened before. Where something's fallen on the ice and the skater's fallen over it. And sometimes it can be something as simple as a hair bobble's just fallen off, or, a patch of the dress has just come off.
Thankfully, that hasn't happened during this competition, and hopefully it won't happen
Fingers crossed.
the rest of the day or tomorrow. We definitely don't want any costume failure, partly because they're also lovely.
Yes, it is. It's always quite nice. It's, you feel the part when you put the costume on. It's that final stage of the preparation to get in the mindset.
It's nice to see them both looking pretty happy with their performance.
Yeah, no, it is good to see, definitely. They both do enjoy competing so much. They both had different partners, and when both partnerships ended, they decided to skate together, and they work very hard. They do work very, very hard. It doesn't come so naturally for all of these skaters. Some of them it's very natural, some of them it's not, but they all work kind of equally as hard.
I mean, I don't think you could get anywhere in skating if you don't have a good work ethic.
No, definitely not. There's always something to work on, even right up until the day of the competition. There'll be something that you've remembered that you needed to work on, and sometimes it's just too late.
Natalie and Peter, total segment score 30.94. Natalie and Peter are currently in 4th place.
So a score of 30.94 for Natalie and Peter.
Next to skate, Lucy Hancock and Billy Wilson French, representing Ice Sheffield.
So from Ice Sheffield, we've got Lucy Hancock and Billy Wilson French.
This is their second year in junior, but they have really improved since last year.
I remember the days of just keeping time, of hanging around in sleepy towns forever. Back roads empty for miles. Well, you can't.
The start of the Tea Time Foxtrot. Very good interpretation so far.
But when I saw you, I knew we'd go together. Like a wink and a smile. Leave your old jalopy by the railroad track. We'll get a hip, double dip, tip-toppy, two-seat Pontiac. So you can rev her up, don't go slow. It's only green lights and all right. Let's go together with a wink and a smile.
little bit far apart on the twizzles, but very nice and synchronised, interpreting the music. Very nice character throughout that step sequence. They stop moving towards the end of the rotational lift. That might cost them a level because the lift has to keep moving across the ice. As soon as it stops, it is a downgrade. But we'll see what the technical panel thinks. Sometimes when the technical panel review things, you look back on it and it's not as bad as you thought it was, so it might not be enough to affect the level.
So sometimes having that replay is actually beneficial to the skaters.
Yes, definitely. It's everything is happening so quickly, but for the technical panel and the judges, it is quite easy to miss things or misinterpret things. So just having that replay, it really, really does help. It's to the skater's advantage.
Because the judging team for skating, it's really large, isn't it? And everybody has their specialist area.
Yes. So you have the judging panel, and they assess the quality of what the skaters are doing. So that's the GOE. And then they have skating skills, performance, timing, all things like that. And then the technical panel, the elements, the twizzles, the lift, the step sequence, the tea time foxtrot, they assess that, and there's different levels, different requirements to get the levels for them to get their score. So it's quite specialist.
Yeah, and there's an awful lot goes into it. Like we said earlier, like what we're seeing on the ice is sort of the pinnacle of an awful lot of training support from lots and lots of different people.
Yeah, it's kind of 5-6 days a week for the last sort of like 9-10 months. You're seeing of work on the ice. Not a lot of breaks. No holidays, things like that. It's quite constant. A lot of the skaters tend to take their vacations once the season has finished, have a little bit of downtime to recuperate, and then they start getting back into things. There's new rules to work on, new programs to pick and choreograph, and new elements to fix. So it's pretty constant. When the competition season, you think, I've got 2 weeks off, and that 2 weeks off goes so quickly, and then you're right back into it.
Wow. So Lucy and Billy, they are representing GB. No, sorry, they have been invited to Junior Grand Prix in 2020.
I think they were the reserves this season, but they have competed internationally. Their last event in Riga, they did very well. They had a bit of an issue on the rhythm dance. Unfortunately, they both fell, so it was very costly on the marks for them. But they went out on the free dance and they got a personal best score. They skated really well. They stepped up their game for the free dance. It was nice to see.
So having that mistake didn't sort of put them off, it pushed them to try even harder in their free dance.
Yeah, when you're a competitor, you learn to forget the mistakes very quickly. It's done, you can't go back, you can't change it. You have to effectively block it out and just look to the rest of the programme and what you can do to improve. You can't feel sorry for yourself and think, what if? It's just get on with it.
Because today is only halfway through, isn't it?
Yes, this is only one part. That's the thing, unless something majorly goes wrong, then you can still make it up in the second part of the event.
So much, so many things that they have to do, and so many things to think about. And like this is only the first part. So if you are watching at home, come and see part 2 tomorrow, because we're going to see their free dances tomorrow, which is very exciting. I'm looking forward to all of the skaters I've seen today. I'm very much looking forward to seeing the other programs that they're going to do tomorrow. And there's definitely some technical panel discussion going on at the moment.
Definitely, they're taking a while to decide here, but that's good though, because the majority of the specialists and the judges, they will go in favour of the skater.
Billy and Lucy, total segment score 48.67.
They're happy
Billy
with that.
and Lucy are currently in 3rd place.
So 48.67 for Lucy and Billy. they seem very, very pleased about.
Erin Gillies and Joshua Turry representing British Ice Skating.
So these guys are a new partnership. This is their first season together. And Josh is from Nottingham, and then Erin is from Canada, but she has a British family, so it means she can skate for Great Britain. And they also train in Canada as well. Oh, mistake from Josh there on the twizzle. That might affect the level that they can get for the step sequence. Recovered very nicely though.
She was the roughest, toughest friend, but man, it had a heart as big as a whale.
They're a little bit out of time with the music. They need to try to get back in sync with it for the level.
She messed around with a bloke named Smokey. She loved him though he was cookie. She took her down to Chinatown and he showed her how to kick the gong around. Howdy, 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 howdy. Oh, hitty, 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 hitty.
Very strong lift there. Good interpretation with the music. They look really comfortable on that. Erin having a slight bobble there on the twizzle. That will affect the level that she gets. She will lose a level. It was a shame. There was a couple of mistakes there, but they have improved a lot since the last time I saw them.
Thank you, Erin and Joshua.
They also competed on the Junior Grand Prix earlier on. They did one event. It was good for them. They gained a lot of experience. They were up against some very high-level couples. It's invaluable experience competing against people like that. You learn so much without even realising.
There must be fantastic events to go to, because obviously you're invited, aren't you, as a couple?
Mm-hmm.
You're not invited. The nation isn't invited, and then they choose. You're personally invited.
Yeah, for the Junior Grand Prix, it's the country earns the spots, and then the country picks who goes.
Yeah.
For the Senior Grand Prix, they're invited.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah, for the senior,
So
for the senior they're invited, but for the junior, the country earns spots, and we had 5 spots out of the 7 events this year.
Wow.
Yeah, so
That's really good.
It was good. Yeah, it was good.
That lift was excellent. I really enjoyed that lift.
It was very smooth. They should definitely get a positive GOE on that from the judges.
The lifts are really interesting because they're all so different.
They are different. It's where people try to make it different and use their own interpretation of it. There's some events you go to there and you have 4 or 5 couples doing the same thing because it's an easy way to get a level. So it's always nice to see when a couple is doing something a little bit different, because it's not just run of the mill. They're using their imagination.
And like you said, that very much sort of fitted in with the music and the theme, didn't it?
It did, with the music starting to slow down and Erin going up into her position. It was choreographed very well. it makes a big difference to the choreographic mark from the judges and the jury for the element as well. Things like that really do push the score up.
I was very impressed by the Charleston in skates as well, because Charleston's pretty difficult on the floor.
It's a fast one. It's very, very fast.
That was a really, really enjoyable programme.
Yeah, they seem to enjoy it as well. The technical panel are taking their time again. But it's sometimes you want them to take their time, because then you know that you're getting the best possible result. Yeah. They're not just rushing through and just giving any level. So it is more beneficial to the skaters when they take their time a little bit more. It's not so good when you're down in the kiss and cry waiting for the results, though. Like 10 seconds feels like 10 minutes.
It must feel like the longest waits.
It really does. When you watch it back on the TV, you realise it's not actually that long, but when you're sitting there, it feels like forever.
And sometimes the judges call the score very quickly, and sometimes, like now, they're spending the time making sure that the skaters get the mark they deserve.
Yeah. In some ways, it can be more nerve-wracking sitting down in the kiss and cry than actually getting out on the ice, because you're waiting for that moment to see how you did, because you never know. Even if it feels like it's gone amazing, the score won't necessarily reflect how you're feeling. And yeah, that's the bad side of the kiss and cry. It's when you don't get the score that you want and you're trying really hard not to show that you're disappointed, but you just can't help it sometimes.
And some of the skaters we've seen, it's been very obvious very quickly how they're feeling.
Yeah.
And others, the score's been actually quite good.
And Joshua,
yeah.
Total segment score 42.69. Erin and Joshua are currently in 4th place.
There was a few too many mistakes there.
So a score of 42.69.
Next to skate, Phoebe Becker and Theodore Alexander, representing Lee Valley.
So these guys are a new couple as well. It's their first season. On the warm-up, unfortunately, Phoebe had a bit of a fall and she banged her head. So I hope she's okay. It might make her a little bit woozy, so fingers crossed it won't.
Please prepare to welcome the Chief Executive Officer of Globalsoft Planet.
It's a very different theme, this one, compared to the others that we've seen so far.
At globalsoft.com/.
Few timing issues throughout that first section there. Oh, Theo almost had a fall there. It's created quite a large interruption. This will cost them on the level that they get. Shown good interpretation throughout this step sequence, nice choreography to fit with the music. Phoebe had a touchdown on her twizzle there. The technical panel will definitely review that. Good final lift there. I think there was a few costly mistakes in that. In the tea time foxtrot, I don't think he fell. The technical panel will definitely review it to see if it was a fall, but they missed quite a few steps out there. There is a requirement for the number of steps that you have to fulfill in a sequence, and if they are under the requirement, they will get a no level on that sequence. It's quite harsh, but the technical panel will definitely be counting now to see how many steps that they missed.
Well, I hope they managed to do enough.
Yeah. The step down on the twizzle as well, she was standing on 2 feet for quite a while, so it may be classed as an interruption, which will affect the level that Phoebe will get for her twizzles.
It was a really unusual program. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's very different compared to everything that we've seen so far. It's obviously still within the musical genre, but they've decided to do something completely different to everybody else, which is very nice. It makes them stand out from the rest of the bunch.
And they clearly enjoyed it.
Yeah, definitely. It looks like they really did enjoy it. The bump on Phoebe's head will definitely affect how she's feeling. But this is a part of, the competitive side of things. You never know what's going to happen, and you have to just really push yourself through it.
Yeah,
they look happy, though. They look quite happy.
She looks okay. Hopefully she's okay.
Yeah.
This is they're a new partnership, aren't they?
They are a new partnership. It's their first season together.
They've had a shortened season because of them being a new partnership.
They because they're brand new. They have to start out right at the bottom and work their way up. So they have to get to a certain level and achieve a certain score before they can be considered for international events. So they've only competed nationally so far. But depending on the scores that they get here, that might change after today.
Because they're hoping to be selected for Junior Grand Prix or Junior World Championships, so they've got their sights set pretty high. Yeah,
I think it will probably take them a couple of seasons. Maybe they might be considered for a Junior Grand Prix next season. It depends on how many spots we earn.
Yeah.
It's all decided on the previous season's Junior World Championships. So whoever gets sent to Junior Worlds, their placement will determine how many spots we get on the Junior Grand Prix series in the next season. Okay. But I think they need a couple more years yet before they'll be considered for Junior Worlds. But they're both quite young, so they have time. Yeah, they have enough time. I think Theo's only 15. Yeah, Theo's only 15, so he's got all the way up to 21. So he's got a lot of years left.
So this is very much sort of the beginning of their junior.
Yeah, the beginning of their journey, definitely. They'll be working to gain as much experience as possible and progress from there.
So Theo was a solo ice dancer before.
He had 2 partners before.
Okay.
Yeah, he had 2 partners before. Phoebe has never had a partner before. This is her first competitive season with a partner. She competed on the solo dance series as well. Theo did a long time ago, and then since then.
But Phoebe more recently.
Yeah, Phoebe more recently. She's never had a partner, so it's going to be a very, very big change for her. It's solo dance is very similar to the couples, but having that extra person there, it does change things quite a lot. Even though it's the same steps, the same movements, you've got another person to think about, not just yourself.
Yeah, but it must be really challenging.
Oh, it can be. There can be, a stray elbow here and a knee there in the wrong places. But it is part and parcel of having a partner, and part of that transition process is learning how not to elbow your partner in the face. But accidents happen. They always happen. Even the most experienced of the Olympic and the world champions, they can just be having an off day and get a knee in the stomach or something like that, or get dropped out of a lift on their face.
Doesn't even bear thinking about. The ice is really hard.
You know what? The faster you're moving, the better it is, because then you just slide. If you're, when you're going slow, it's a dead drop and it really hurts.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, but if it's, you've got nice clean ice, you're going fast, you just slide, or you just bounce straight back up again because the momentum keeps you going.
It does amaze me when they literally bounce. I keep saying that skaters bounce, but they really do seem to.
You just get used to it. You do. You really, really do get used to it. The first few times it happens, you really don't know what to do, but then you kind of adjust, and it kind of becomes like autopilot how you deal with it. Because there is so many falls and knocks and things like that in training for all of the disciplines. You do learn how to cope with it, apart from like with the couple we saw earlier, the Fairbridges, when they fell, that was one of those falls that's so completely unexpected.
Yeah.
You don't know what to do.
Yeah, I've just got to try and get back into it
Yeah,
again.
yeah. A lot of these couples, when they're training, when they're running through their programs, they'll do sort of competition simulations.
Yeah.
And if they fall, they get back up and get straight on as if it was a competition, because you can't stop and go to the judges and be like, "Can I start again?"
Yeah.
So
that's
they
true.
train to prepare for that. There's an Olympic skater a few years ago. There was an issue at one of the competitions they were at. I think it was the fire alarm went off, and he crumbled when it happened. So then after that, his coach would do different things, like start banging drums when they were running
Wow.
through, switch the lights off, set the fire alarm off, anything that she could think of that would throw him out of his comfort zone. She wouldn't warn him she was going to do it, but it worked because they became Olympic champions.
Wow.
So, but yeah, some of the coaches really do factor a lot into the training, but then if you're going to be Olympic champion, you need to.
You kind of got to, yeah. You'd have to develop nerves of steel every time you came training. You're like, what might happen today? I don't know. She might throw something at me.
Yeah, that's what it was, definitely. But you get nerves of steel. You get a very thick skin dealing with it, because there can be quite a lot of criticism, and it's not meant in a bad way. But when you're hearing things over and over again, it can kind of bring you down a bit, so you learn to deal with that and take it as a positive thing, not as a bad thing. Taking their time on this.
Yeah, like you said, they do want to make sure that they're giving the skaters the best score they can.
Yeah, definitely. It's the judges are very aware of how much everybody puts into this sport. I mean, the judges themselves put a lot of time in. It's all voluntary. They don't get paid to do it. There's a lot of learning involved in the whole process. A lot of them are using their annual leave from their normal jobs to be here judging. Yeah, so it's from all sides of it. People want to get the right result and what's most fair for the skaters. Like we said earlier, 1 point can make a very, very big difference in the standings. So they want to make sure that it's correct.
And then the scores aren't that far apart. Like at the moment, we've got Sasha and George in second with 57.29, and then Emily and James in first at the moment with 60.78. So there's only.
It's less than 3 points.
Yeah.
It's not a lot. It's some of the elements can be worth sort of 4 or 5 points. And you miss one, and it can be anything. You can end up anywhere. Like we saw with Erin and Josh earlier, they had a few costly mistakes. All season they finished ahead of Billy and Lucy, but they had just too many mistakes, and it really affected the score. So now Billy and Lucy are ahead of them, but Billy and Lucy have improved a lot as well.
So for these guys on the sofa, this must be feeling like the longest wait of their
Awful,
lives.
yeah.
I think this is definitely the longest I've known them take to decide.
It does get to the point when you're sitting there when you just don't know what to do.
No.
If you've been sitting there for a long, long time. They're a bit stuck, like, how do we react? What do we do?
Can we move yet? No one's told us what school we got.
They actually have to stay in the kiss and cry until the score is announced, especially at European and World Championships. If the skaters don't go in the kiss and cry and stay in there for the duration, they could get a fine.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
they
wow.
can get a fine, and it can be quite costly as well. There's lots and lots of guidelines when you go on the international stage and you're on the TV and everything. There's requirements for the logos on your
Yes,
team
I can
jackets.
understand.
It can only be a certain size. If it's a brand, they have to put things over the top.
But this must just feel like endless.
Yeah. It'll be a long, long time.
Poor Phoebe. poor Theo.
This is adding to her headache.
Yes, we didn't actually see what happened for them to call the judges over. We hadn't realised that there'd been a head bump, did we?
No. That's probably the reason why the referee called them all over, just to warn them to be careful.
Because like you said, you don't want to have to withdraw because of an injury during during the warm-up. Her costume their costumes are really interesting, because obviously they're trying to portray that slightly more kind of space robotic sort of theme.
Yeah, I think they've really thought about the costumes that they've got and really tried to go with something different.
The marks for Phoebe and Theodore. Total segment score 30.86.
So 30.86 for Phoebe and Theodore.
don't look very happy with that.
So at the top, it's pretty close, with Emily, Rose and James on 60.98, Sasha and George on
That concludes the junior
57.29.
dance. The senior dance, rhythm dance, will commence at 18:35.
And it's pretty close in the middle as well. So we've got Lucy,
Yeah.
Billy, Erin and Josh.
Yeah, you will find that there'll be clear blocks. So the top ones will be out there on their own. The ones in the middle will be pretty close, and then the ones at the bottom will all be pretty close.
Yeah.
It's yeah, I mean, it could be anybody's game tomorrow, definitely. With how close the scores are, it's going to be a very interesting event. One mistake is going to be very costly.
And anyone could take podium places, really. I think first and second, it's going to be a fight for who that's going to be.
Yeah.
But third
and
certainly
fourth is going to be a fight
it's
as
going
well.
to be a bit of
Yeah.
a fight. Should be.
I think among the lower couples as well, I think there's 3 couples who are on 30 points. There's hardly anything in it, so that's going to be very interesting what happens between them as
Yeah.
well.
It's going to be very exciting. Everyone's tuning in tomorrow. Very exciting day. But today isn't over. We're going into the senior dance next, and we will having a short break for an ice resurface, as you can see, and we'll be back at 18:35.